Happy fantasy football draft season, everyone! With more and more fantasy league drafts happening, we're running an 8-team, one quarterback PPR redraft mock. On this show, we give respect to the smaller leagues. More importantly, we'll be helping you figure out where players are getting drafted in this format. Coming to you live on Optimus Fantasy, this is Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, welcome to Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan, right here on Optimus Fantasy, coming to you every Monday evening until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, I have another fellow Bears fan joining me for this mock draft. He owns the Get Right Fantasy Network. He's also the founder of the Fantasy Football Tavern on YouTube. Please welcome to the show, Kendall Vanderbilt. Kendall, how are you, my friend?
Evan, I'm doing great, buddy. Caleb's having a good preseason. Rome looks like the player we drafted. You know we're riding high over here, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, they definitely are doing so well just because it's just so good to not only do we have a real head coach on our team, but it just feels so good that the offense looks good despite the struggles where we've got some jesters online acting like that Tyson Bagent is better than Caleb Williams right now, forgetting that Tyson Bagent is going to get up against backups versus the starters, which Caleb and crew are still getting acquainted with each other with this offense and this brand new Ben Johnson system. And I'm still excited.
I'm super excited. You know, when it comes to backups and things like that too, you mentioned the coaching, having an adult in the room with some professional charisma that a team can get behind. You know, these are professional athletes that most of them are younger than both of us, right? The mental game, the atmosphere, we all have day jobs, right? If the vibes in the entire workplace are good, productivity's through the roof. Everyone wants to win a title together, and I think that's what we're seeing. I think we've been held back by play calling and just bad vibes, and even a pro athlete is certainly not immune to just not feeling it. Look at DJ Moore last year on half the plays. And so a guy like Bagent, I want him on the team. I want Caleb to have someone that's just feel good. And I want Bagent's parents in the stands too. Love to see them out there. What great people they are, you know?
I'm so glad Tyson Bagent got paid, man. That guy deserved every penny that he got as being a high-end backup quarterback who actually has an arm that so many NFL scouts just didn't look at him because he was an undrafted former D2 guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's one of those, you need someone throwing balls to the second stringers, right? The stronger your backup quarterback is, the better the practice reps are going to be, the better the practice as a whole is going to be. We talk about it, not necessarily in fantasy, but like in basketball, you talk about the sixth man a lot, which forces the fifth man to be that much better. I think you're going to see that.
Oh, it's just so exciting. Like you were just saying, it's an adult in the room because ever since Lovie Smith was fired after that 10-6 season we had back when the NFL was 16 games 15 years ago, we've just been putting up with just bad coach after bad coach that never panned out. And Matt Eberflus was arguably, at least in my opinion, the worst head coach we've ever had, worse than Nagy. He was the hold my beer to Matt Nagy, where Eberflus just didn't even know, not only not know how to manage a clock, but he didn't even know when to throw a red challenge flag. You remember the 69-yard catch Jordan Addison had? And Eberflus was like, I'm going to throw this flag because it felt right in the moment.
Yeah. Hey, solid. I can't even say good anymore. It's solid specialist. Did not know what he was doing, way in over his head. Yeah. It is what it is, but I think he's back where he belongs, specialist position. So,
you know, I got to be honest though, Kendall. Matt Eberflus was getting ready to be let go by the Indianapolis Colts when he was their defensive coordinator until George McCaskey hired him on as the head coach to put in Ryan Poles' lap. And now Eberflus is back to being the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. I'm just looking at their fans and going, good luck, guys.
Yeah, how's that defense projected this year? I know I'm drafting a lot of Cowboys offensive players because of that defense, but hey. Good luck to him, you know. I hope he sticks around and has a job, but I'm not projecting it.
Totally. Jason William, I want to let you know in the comments, we do see your comment. We'll get to your question in a little bit here. I want to talk a little bit first about you, Kendall, with the work that you've been doing. So, as I mentioned, you took pretty much the lion's share of the work on the Get Right Fantasy Network. You guys have a very strong YouTube presence right now with a mock draft tournament, which I've joined you for a couple Fridays in a row to judge how people are drafting, and I've even tried my hand at some of your mock drafting as well. Tell us a little bit about this mock draft tournament right now. We're in the semifinals, so what can we expect coming up to until the finals?
Hey, thanks for asking. So, our mock draft tournament, it's kind of our thing, right? We're a community of mock draft degens. You know, if there's one thing we do, it's that. And so, a big shout out to our godfather, our founder, Mr. Rasta. Definitely, you guys will probably see him in the mock draft streets for sure. He originally set it up, but the way it works is like this. So, 4 weeks leading up to the NFL season, we do a mock Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Change up the formats a little bit. You know, we do a super flex week back to one QB, but all pretty much the same. And then we collectively, all of our staff over at Get Right, we vote and we come up with the top three as weighted votes. And so each top three for 4 days in a row, they all qualify essentially for our Friday night mocks, where we run sort of a semifinal. Top three from week 1, 2, 3, 4, they actually get put into a real best ball league that we set up for them, and they play it out to see who is the overall mock draft tournament of champions winner. And we're showering them with we're not crazy stuff yet. We hope to give them more, but all the stuff we can't afford to give them, we throw out to them, and it's just a fun time. So that the month leading up to the NFL season, doesn't matter what day of the week it is. There's a mock for you. If you can't make it one day, literally it's on the next. And it's just such a great way for us to prep. When I have to grade really competitive mock drafts 5 days a week, it forces me to really understand and how I'm reading a draft board. So it's such a good time for the community. It gives us things to talk about in our Discord, and it makes me a better fantasy player. So that is kind of how it goes down. I think Vince over in chat, he actually, I know he's a big friend of the show, big friend of your show. He's actually moving on. He's a finalist, one of the strongest drafters I know. So big ups to you, Vince. Wishing you lots of luck this upcoming Friday.
Yeah, Vince is my favorite Aussie from down under. He's been a mock drafting legend. And Vince, I wish you had the kind of money to fly me down to Australia someday. I want to come visit. I want to see the land down under.
Oh man, hey, if we can get a couple invites to SBF 20 or 16 over down under, that would be awesome. I know Vince hosted that, a big part of that this year, so that would be so cool to see him down there for that.
Totally, yes. So Jamie Perogue actually pointed out something just now that I wasn't about to take seriously because I thought it was a joke. Kenny Pickett actually did get traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. So that is now going to eliminate one more contender for being the Browns starting quarterback. I actually projected Kenny Pickett to be the starter over Joe Flacco because he offers just a little bit more in his stage of his career compared to Joe Flacco. And now it appears that Pickett is going to be competing for the top backup role behind Geno Smith, being that we're not going to be seeing Aiden O'Connell for several weeks after he broke something again. That guy can't seem to catch a break with getting hurt. So, Kendall, does this move the needle for you with the quarterback room for the Raiders?
Not much for the Raiders, I don't think. I mean, I think Pickett still has to. He's still kind of a. Who would I kind of compare him to? He's just going to be a forever backup. I don't think he has the upper end talent. Even if he gets rid of the rookie mistakes, he didn't flash at any point in time in his career. So I think he's a good backup. He doesn't complain. He's a good kid. He represents what an NFL organization needs as a backup. And so I think he'll do fine there. The injury made the trade make sense. And the Browns just kind of started collecting. I think they have 5 or 6 QBs trying to make the 50-plus man roster. So they were going to have to, make some cuts at that point, and being able to get, our equivalent of a couple fab dollars, not too much, but getting something for it made a lot of sense. So yeah, then the Browns, I think, Vince saying there in chat, the Browns have not been great with their trades as of the last couple of years. So I think they finally got some value. It's not enough, but it's something, and it certainly clears it up for, having Flacco. At least you're not going to have the rookie mistakes. It's an adult in the room at the helm, getting the guys together, as they have a lot of rookies they need to sort out. And it does clear the way just a tiny bit for maybe a second half of the season change up to get one of the rookies in.
Yikes. Yeah, all I got to say is yikes for the sake of Joe Flacco because that man is not exactly slow, but on the NFL level, he's going to have a bad offensive line to be working with. So I hope he's ready to run for his life with how rough that passing offense is going to be. I definitely expect the Browns to be running the football a lot this year, but let's get into more of that as soon as we get the mock draft started, though. So I want to get into the rules first, but before I do that, everybody who's watching right now, hit that like button below in this video, and while you're at it, subscribe to Optimus Fantasy as well for more live shows like this one. So let's get into it here. So this is a mistake, unfortunately. It's 8 teams tonight, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex spots, 1 defense/special teams, and 1 kicker. And we've got 7 bench slots tonight as well. So these rosters are going to be a little bit bigger than usual. But being that it's 8 teams, you can afford a little bit of extra space so that the waiver wire is not too plentiful. Just, I don't know about you, Kendall, but I don't like the waiver wire being too plentiful. I like people feeling like they need to trade for good talent, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want it to be enough that Tuesday night becomes a thing, right? You want it to be an event. You want people to have to compete and make a real call for your guy. You want at least one sort of everyone wants him person on the waiver wire to make going after the second and third options worth it. Where if it's just too thin, it's overspending for folks that are going to get redropped, and it takes away a dynamic that I think is fun for the game. And if the waiver wire is not deep enough, I also think that lowers the skill ceiling, which is something I'm a big proponent of in fantasy. Is just how do we take it from there's variance, there's some luck involved, but if we can make it farther away from flipping coins, I'm a proponent, and I think adding to that is good.
I love the skill factor you brought up too, and that's something I want to debate with you a little bit later. But in the meantime, I think we've kept the people waiting long enough, Kendall, my friend. Are you ready to get this started?
Oh, I was born ready, dude. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Let's get it going. I'm clicking start. Pastor Sauce is up first. I will be drafting behind him. He's got Jamar Chase. I'm going to grab Saquon Barkley because I'm a bit of a Saquon Barkley homer in a way. But Bijan Robinson is usually the first running back off the board as Jamie Perogue just took him at the 3 spot. Kendall, is there a wrong running back to take first this early in any draft?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I'm very happy with any of those 3. I think for me, actually, Bijan's third for me. I prefer Barkley, then Gibbs, then Bijan. It's just there's an overwhelming correlation at the running back position from offensive production to how that correlates to the running back position. If the offense is in the red zone, the running back is the number 1 position that benefits from it, right? So I think Bijan's going to have a fantastic year, but overall, I think he's probably going to have less red zone looks than I think Gibbs and Barkley do. So just based on the strength of the offenses, I think that's a perfectly fine pick. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the 3, and you're really splitting hairs. What it even might come down to is who do you want to pair later up with them? If you really, really like Drake London, maybe you possibly want to go with one of the other backs outside of Bijan, right? If you really like David Montgomery, I'm a big fan. He's on my wall right behind me. I got a signed, D-Mont jersey. So if I like him, maybe I want to fade Gibbs because it takes D-Mont off my board, right? That's a better consideration, I think, than really splitting too many hairs there.
I love that. I'm going to let you make your next pick here. And then I want to get into some questions here as now we're getting deep into the season and people are starting to ask about their fantasy football inquiries. So Jason William is in a 10-team, 2-quarterback league asking who would you target at the 105, an elite quarterback or a running back/wide receiver? So being that it's a 2-quarterback league, I, at the 5th spot, don't mind waiting on quarterback even in a format like this. I prefer to go get a stud hero running back or wide receiver, depending which one's on the board. Kendall, after you make this next pick, I want to hear what you think about Jason's question.
Yeah, sure. This is
So,
going to
for those
be.
of you listening at home, Kendall picked CeeDee Lamb at the 106. We have swung around to the 203. He's thinking about this next pick, and he took Malik Neighbors going wide receiver, wide receiver. More on that in a bit. Let's hear what you think about Jason's question here.
So it really depends how the board falls, but I'm not going to cop out the answer. I think Jamar Chase typically goes within the first 3 to 4 picks. I do think there is a little bit of a tier break after Burrow. Jason, let me ask you this question. Is it 4-point passing touchdown or 6-point passing touchdown? Because that's going to be a little bit of a differentiator for me. If it's 4-point passing touchdowns, I'm going to move Burrow a little bit farther down, but I do want one of the top four. If Jamar Chase goes and one of the top four quarterbacks, either Lamar, Allen, or Daniels or Hurts, I do want to grab one of those. I think they're difference makers themselves and their talent and their overall offensive ecosystem. So assuming Chase goes, sometimes he still even goes at the 101 in those formats. But if it's Burrow at that point, that's when I'm going to go ahead and take a positional player. But if any of those top four are on the board, that's my pick.
Beautiful answer. I like that a lot. As you're making your next pick here, we're going to get into Miles Young's question next. He asks, I got offered Puka and Diggs for Chase Brown, Ted McMillan, and Devontae Adams. Do I take it? Not knowing the context behind this particular league, I'm guessing this is you guys just drafted in a redraft league. Miles, if that's wrong, please correct us in the comments. But getting offered Puka and Diggs from all of Chase Brown, Ted, and Devontae Adams, if I'm fine at running back, yes, I'm taking that. What about you, Kendall?
I am. So this is a dynasty question. I'm guessing. I'm gonna lean, and there's some nuance to it. I'm gonna take the Chase Brown, Tet, Devontae side, but I'm taking that side because I think right now Chase Brown is incredibly elevated in the dynasty market. I would be looking to resell him mid-season to tier down to someone else. Like if I could trade Chase Brown for a future first and one of the rookie running backs that I like, or just other position, first and the third, something along those lines, I think the total value you can accrue on the second half of that trade is greater. Puka is still the best player, and I think T-Mac, aka Tet, is going to do quite nice. I have Puka way above all those folks, but I'm specifically looking to get some value. And if I'm either winning my league, those are more pieces that I think are going to help you win your league. If you're not winning your league, I think you can flip Chase to a contender, and Devontae Adams, I think you can also flip, and the total trade value you can get by piecemealing them individually is going to be greater at the end of the day.
Yeah, I apologize if this wasn't a dynasty question, but from a dynasty perspective, as a dynasty fanatic myself, yes, I absolutely love that. Especially trying to flip Chase Brown for a first, I am all over that because a lot of people hate me for saying that I am out on Chase Brown repeating his RB10 season. I think he's a top 20 running back, but not a top 10 running back. And speaking of Chase Brown, so Chase Brown went at the 307 here in this draft after Jonathan Taylor, which I really like a lot. But he also went after Bucky Irving. Um, Based on how this went down, by the way, Kendall drafted Jonathan Taylor before Chase Brown. I love that pick. I think Chase Brown is a solid RB2. Give me more what you think about Chase this year, Kendall.
Well, I mean, I scouted him all the way back from college. He was great for the Fighting Illini, where he was used as an absolute workhorse, had a massive dominator rating. He was a 3-down workhorse in college, even though he's a tad bit undersized for the NFL. So I was a big fan. He actually made my league winners video last year. I know everybody on X for fantasy talks about, if you watched me last year when I said so-and-so. So I won't give too many of those takes, but he was like my number one league winner. So I have to throw that out there for sure. I think he's going to win by volume for sure. I think their defense, even with Hendrickson just getting the bag there, he's going to be back. I still don't think they're a team they're going to have to score 30 points to win a game. I think even you saw in the preseason, I think Burrow, he wants to do what he wants to do, but if Chase and T don't have the route set up, I think there's going to be a considerable amount of dump offs to Chase. So in PPR settings, I think he's pretty fantastic. I don't think he's the best goal line back. I have him projected for below 8 touchdowns. So I think his ceiling is just in his overall usage, but he's going to be a little bit inefficient. So where others are putting him straight to the moon, I have him within the same range as everyone else, but I think he is significantly less of a talent than Jonathan Taylor. I think his yards per carry are going to be less than Jonathan Taylor. I think his touchdowns are going to be less than a Jonathan Taylor. So I still have Taylor and Bucky Irving ahead of Chase Brown. I think and the HN injury does worry me a little bit. Ollie Gordon's looking pretty good, but I do have Chase Brown ahead of, say, Kyron Williams, where I think Kyren isn't a factor in the passing game, and touchdowns can kind of be a non-sticky stat. So that's where I slot him in. Very similar. It's not a hot or a cold take. I just want him a little bit after some of the other guys I like a little bit more.
So as you're making your next pick, Kendall, I'll respond with that I think you have Chase Brown appropriately ranked, at least, where I don't think he deserves to be in the RB1 conversation, but I also don't think Bucky Irving deserves to be in the RB1 conversation either, being that Todd Bowles loves Rashad White still, especially as a pass blocker, because Bucky Irving is terrible at that. And then they still love Sean Tucker, who barely gets 10% of the snaps anyway when both of the guys ahead of him are healthy. But he's so explosive and he's so dominant when you give him the football against the right defenses. So I think that leaves Bucky Irving in the firm RB2 conversation. And I see his ADP is very high, even above Jonathan Taylor this year. Is Bucky Irving overrated in ADP this year, Kendall?
I don't think so. Because he's a similar case to Chase Brown, right? He should be incredibly involved on a very strong offense. But where I say he's better than Chase Brown is I just think he's a more talented NFL player than Chase Brown because his physical metrics, he's not a breakaway speed type of guy, but I think he was a top 5 or 6 in forced missed tackles. So, I mean, he's shifty, kind of like Kamara, but less of an athlete. And in an offense where there's just so many other players to account for, the amount of times he's able to get into a favorable matchup one-on-one situation is just very high. And I think Baker has earned a lot of trust in him, specifically in the passing game too, where Baker does not want to become the turnover guy that he used to be earlier in his career. And I think with a little bit of age comes a little bit of wisdom, slightly more dump offs. I think the red zone opportunities are going to be elite. I think if Evans ever gets banged up a little bit, all of a sudden he's going to be very, very good in the red zone. So it's just an overall combination of he has such a safe floor on what should be a top 5 offense, which at the running back position, if you can project someone for 75+% of snaps in a top 5 offense, they almost never don't finish as a top 12 back. And essentially he's being drafted where I think is more closer to his floor, where actually he has a little bit more upside. So he's just slightly less talented than some of the guys going in his range. And I think you can see that on the field to some extent. So I can agree with your take to some extent where you could move him down a few, but I certainly can't, I can't take Kyren ahead of him. I can't, Jacobs might be an interesting one. I think he's pretty close with Jacobs, but Jacobs is good, has all the volume, has a lot of things. I'd slot him behind Jacobs.
Very good, sir. And thank you all so much too for the questions that are coming in the chat too. We really appreciate it this time of year. As Kendall is making his next pick, I want to pull up Juan Pena Jr.'s draft in his 10-team league for full PPR. This is this is kind of a lot to read, but we're gonna do it anyway because we are beasts. He drafted Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Zach Charbonnet, Cam Scadaboo, Travion Henderson. And then the wide receivers are Jordan Addison, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Christian Kirk, Josh Downs, Deebo Samuel. Tight ends are George Kittle, and quarterback is Kyler Murray. So I think this is a pretty solid team to start the season. What do you think, Kendall?
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm looking positionally here. I mean, Taylor and Jacobs, that's pretty phenomenal. Travion is one of my absolute favorite players. I was actually hoping to get him a little bit early. I was thinking about him at the 4-3 where I took Allen. I couldn't quite make the pick there, so that feels quite good. I think Kupp's underrated. Adams could be the one over Puka. And don't forget, Puka does have a bit of an injury history going back to college, so Adams has an even bigger bump. Josh Downs, one of my favorite players in fantasy all around, extremely stable. Kittle could be the tight end 1 this year. The only thing I don't love is actually Kyler Murray. I'm not as big of a fan of. He's a little bit lower in my rankings, and in 10-team, I do think that's a position where the guys available I could potentially see streaming. I'm hoping it's a 4-point passing touchdown. If it's 6, that's the position I'm looking to change up a little bit, but potential 1 at tight end. Guys I really like at wide receiver, specifically with Adams, and great running backs. I think if anything, we're kind of leaning on we need Addison back from the suspension to be quite good. But I like all the picks there. I would give it probably a solid B+, A-. Yeah, it's closer to the A.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well, especially getting that Nick Chubb pick where now we know that Joe Mixon is going to be missing at least 4 weeks of the regular season, if not longer. Apparently this foot injury is more serious than anybody's expecting, but The Houston Texans have been awfully hush-hush about the severity of it, which is awfully alarming. It leads me to believe that they're not entirely sure if they're even going to have Joe Mixon this year. But time will tell, and we don't need to panic at this time of year. If you end up drafting Joe Mixon at a discount, at least you can hold him in an IR slot while you go get somebody else who's potentially good on the waiver wire, and then you're all set. So, Juan, thank you so much for the team question. I want to, as Kendall is making his next pick here, I want to move on to Jacob H's question. 8-team, full PPR $100 buy-in, winner gets 500. What do we think of this drafted team? Quarterbacks, Burrow and Murray. Running backs, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, Tyrone Tracy. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. Tight ends, Travis Kelce and Tyler Warren. I also like this team in an 8-team league. I think if anybody has a team that looks similar to this, they're off to a really, really good start. So, Kendall, now that you made your next pick, what do you think of this team?
Let's see here. Let's see. Love me some Burrow. I mean, definitely love that. So we've got Henry, Chase, Kamara. That is ridiculous. CD, Puka. Yeah, so this is pretty fantastic. This is definitely an A draft here. We have the onesie positions matter, right? I'm a huge fan of Warren. I'm actually probably going to be my next pick when he comes up on the board, actually, to tell you the truth. So I think Kelce and Warren pretty much lock up a top 5 position for you. The real important thing here is the CD Puka. Wide receivers, as much as I like value on wide receiver later on, I think specifically in 8-team, it's much easier to draft just a crap ton of running backs later on and find value there, where just, a guy that's going to finish as a top 24 wide receiver might not have any shot at being a top 10 wide receiver, where that can change week to week at running back. So the first thing I'm looking at in 8-team is, do you have elite onesies, and are you elite wide receiver over running back? I do see that here. I think that's the structure that you want in this format, and they pulled it off. So from build pick order standpoint, solid.
The only thing I'll say too, Jacob, about your team is that you drafted 2 quarterbacks in a 1-quarterback league. You don't need both Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray. And I would recommend seeing if you can find a buyer for Kyler Murray to see if anybody wants to trade for him. And if not, just go ahead and drop him and go pick up another running back or wide receiver. You're fine at tight end with the guys that you've got. So great start. I like your team a lot. I think you're in for a good season, my friend. While you drafted, okay, so Kendall just drafted Tony Pollard. Let's get into Nino Pena's question. Is this an overpay? Trade away Dak Prescott, Travis Etienne, and Trey Benson in exchange for Kyler Murray and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I'm aiming for the Kyler and McBride stack. So in a typical redraft league, I don't believe like stacks are mandatory. I think you'd be fine without the stack. I still like Dak Prescott as a quarterback with elite potential, even if he never reaches top 10 status ever again, because his arm is fantastic. And I don't love having Trey Benson on the bench, being that he's essentially going to be handcuff quality with very minimal value. But I also love Travis Etienne. I don't think you need to buy into the JCM hype this badly. What do you think, Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, I like him in that it's an upside pick. It's a great offense, and he should have a great role. But I do think we need to tamp down expectations. Eckler's going to be quite good. I think they're going to rotate a little bit. So I want to tamp it down a little bit. Kyler's not a quarterback I'm drafting because I want to stack him. Like, you're drafting Kyler for his legs, not because his passing chops are there. I mean, he's like 5'0". Not saying I don't like Marv. I think Marv is going to be able to overcome it at some point, but especially in redraft. I'd also be questioning how many bench spots you have. A lot of leagues are 5 bench spots that want to prioritize waiver. In that particular situation, I don't really want to stack my quarterback with my wide receiver 1, only because it does force you to potentially drop someone you kind of like on your bench if you've been stashing somebody a little bit. So if it's a rushing quarterback, I tend to go unstacked. Like, I don't really do stacks for Jaden very often. I don't do stacks for Lamar very often. So I think you're overvaluing the stack a little bit. And I do think I just have Dak straight up ahead of Kyler in the rankings this year. So I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think you need to do this particular trade. I think you can wait at this time of year to look for something better. You don't have to aim for a stack in your typical redraft leagues. So I also want to give a shout out to the very comical Philly Mike OG in the comments, trying to trick us into thinking that Micah Parsons is now a Tennessee Titan. Ha ha ha! Very funny, sir. Fake news. Micah Parsons, I think, is not going anywhere, though, Kendall. I think he's going to remain a Cowboy. What do you think?
It's so hard. Like, my biggest take is I have no idea what's going to happen, and I think speculating on what something involving Jerry Jones will end up being is a process mistake. Does that make sense? Like
Mm-hmm.
you just can't predict it with Jerry Jones, right? You don't know, and I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. There's a lot of flexing for this or for that that I don't necessarily think is warranted. So I think the most likely outcome is he stays a Cowboy because every trade possibility, the vast majority of times, they stay. So while I think we all want him to move, I think that would be fun for everyone. I think he probably stays a Cowboy. It's worth mentioning, and this doesn't get brought up that much. If Parsons' accountant has anything to say with it, he'll want him to stay a Cowboy because no income tax in the state of Texas. You get to keep your money. That is a huge deal with this type of thing if you're about the money. So that's just worth considering. I'd say it's probably 75% chance he stays.
Yeah, whereas if he wants to go to like a Florida team, they may not have sales tax, but they just tax you in other different ways. I don't have all the. I don't know why I decided to mention that as well because I haven't been to Florida since 2002. So if anybody living in the state of Florida knows, definitely let me know. But um, as you're making your next pick, then Kendall, I also want to mention another team that Nino Pena also brought up too in a 12-team league. He had the 101. Brock Purdy, Drake May, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne. Which Hunter would that be? I'm guessing that's Travis
Yeah,
Hunter.
probably Travie.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Egbuka. I'm forgetting his first name for some reason, and then Keenan Allen, and then having Tyler Warren at tight end. I think that's another solid team for being from the 101 in a 12-man league. What do you think, Kendall?
Probably favorite team this year. So from the 101, so Purdy May, one of my favorite combinations there for sure. Is this 2 QB league? It's got to be 2 QBs lifting Purdy May, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Where if it's only a one quarterback league, yeah, you don't need two quarterbacks. Pick one of them to either trade or drop.
Yeah. JT kind of Pollard, big on my board this year. ETN. Well, I guess no. Hunter is probably not the Hunter we're thinking of. Jamar Sutton, DJ Moore,
Oh,
Egbuka.
sorry,
Love.
he meant it's Jaquez Hunter, the Kyron
Yeah,
Williams'
yeah.
rookie backup.
Because
Yeah.
he got Kyron on the team. Yes, that's his
Yes.
handcuff there. JT Kyron Pollard, really really nice. This is a 12-team league as well too. That changes things a little bit. Wide receivers are fantastic. I always look through about 4 wide receivers there. Tyler Warren is, I think, my favorite value at tight end this year. I think he's like a lock for top 6. I think Warren is probably going to have a better season than Laporta does, to be honest, with Tesla coming into his own. So specifically, the fact that he went later at tight end to get value elsewhere. Any draft where you have Jamar Chase and you didn't sacrifice other positions is huge. Sutton set up for a pretty big year. I'm a little bit down on DJ Moore because I'm so big on Rome, and I think Igbuka is going to be fantastic. So your RB3 is extremely good in stabilizing. Drake May is one of my favorite players this year. Yeah, I think this is an A- for me. Like a lot of good drafts, I'm between A- and B+, and this is firmly in the A- tier. This is really solid. A lot of the value picks are my favorite picks.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing I'll say, Nino, about this 12-team league draft that you just had, I don't believe in drafting handcuffs if you have shallow benches and shallow rosters. You don't necessarily need the rookie Hunter backing up Kyron Williams just in case something happens to Kyron. You can absolutely do better without the dead weight trying to find like a backup running back in the middle of like a 2-back committee. So I don't know where you drafted Hunter, but I would consider dropping him for somebody who's at least going to get a little bit of standalone value as opposed to a handcuff where I don't expect Hunter to be getting any solid work because it sounds like they still want Blake Corum to be taking change of pace duties behind Kyron Williams. Is that what you understand as well, Kendall?
Yeah, it's pretty much my exact same take. Honestly, I don't have a ton to add there. I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth.
With that being said, let's move on to Jacob H's next question as well. 10 team full PPR $50 buy in quarterback, Lamar Jackson, running backs, Jameer Gibbs, Chase Brown, Aaron Jones, Tyrone Tracy, wide receiver, Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, and Evan Ingram. I like this team a lot too. You guys are crushing it in these drafts. What do you think of Jacob's team here, Kendall?
Gibbs, Chase, Brown, Aaron Jones. So through 3, we like Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy, DK Metcalf. Let's see, tight end. I think a little bit to be desired. I don't love taking Hawkinson and Ingram just because I think they're like the same player where you can stream, not necessarily the same quality, but I either would have gone later or I would have gone earlier. So from a draft perspective, that's where I would probably say it went a little bit off. But we do have, QB 1-2 plus a ridiculous RB room. I'm not as big of a fan of Nico Collins, and Garrett Wilson introduces a lot of risk, but I'm big on Worthy and DK this year. So through those, and I think those are players you're going to know when to start them. Either the offense is good or bad for DK. You're going to know either the offense is good or bad for G-Dubs, and you're going to know. So they're the types of players, if you're going to stack multiple good players, and you always do in 10 team, you want players who you're going to know if the offense is good or bad from day one. And so if you're going to go elite at quarterback, having a little bit to be desired at tight end is okay. TJ Hawkinson specifically is going to benefit quite a bit from the Addison suspension. I think he's going to develop good chemistry early on in the season, which probably will correlate into more trust as the season goes on. I do like this quite a bit, very elite. I probably would have gone a different way with Nico Collins. I don't love Nico and Garrett Wilson together, so maybe I have to give it a B+, just because I've got to trim somewhere, but it is a very good draft. It's stable. It's a playoff team.
Yeah, definitely. As you're making your next pick here, I have to comment that you seem to be the lowest on both TJ Hawkinson and Evan Ingram that I've heard on this show and just reading from other people in general, because I am in love with both of these tight ends this year. Where TJ Hawkinson, I don't believe is a consistent play because the Vikings definitely do love to target the wide receiver more. And Hawkinson got hurt during JJ McCarthy's rookie year, too, where, I mean, obviously McCarthy didn't even get to suit up, but Sam Darnold didn't even get to target Hawk much either, but Evan Ingram, I firmly believe, is potentially a top 5 tight end. Getting in Sean Payton's system, oh, I can't wait to see what he can do on the Broncos. So, do you just disagree with me on that about what I think of Ingram, Kendall?
So there's a difference between do I like the player and situation versus I have to go hardcore on the metrics on fantasy points and how fantasy points go from tight end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down to 12, down to 24. And here's the thing, when they look at the makeup of that offense, you can't be in on J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey and Nix and Mims and Sutton and Ingram. If you are, Bo Nix needs to be going as your RB3. Bo Nix needs to be Joe Burrow if you're that in on all those players. So my question almost back to everyone who's in on Ingram is, so you hate Sutton, right? Or you hate Sutton and Mims. Something has to give because Bo Nix is a rushing quarterback that does not project to be a high passing volume quarterback. They have a good defense. They should be a winning team who doesn't need to put up a lot of points. And they have a fantastic running back room where they can run the clock out, slow the number of plays down, slow the pace of play down, and that just doesn't lead to a whole lot of pass attempts. And so that has to go somewhere. And when you have a really good running back room, you tend to have your tight ends blocking a little bit more than specifically on the field as route runners. So I think Ingram is going to be efficient. I think in leagues where you get points for first downs, he's going to pick up some points. But I think he's going to play like the Tyler Lockett role at tight end, where he's going to catch the ball and fall down. He's not going to have a strong ADOT. He's going to have low red zone targets because Sutton's too good there, and so is R.J. Harvey, and so is J.K. Dobbins, and Bo Nix can run it in. There's just not enough pie left for me to give Ingram enough to give him. He's in that middle end of tight ends where it's like they're all going to score about the same. He doesn't have the upside that, like, I don't love Travis Kelce, but there's a much bigger upside if he hits, right? There's a bigger upside on Colston Loveland. There's a bigger upside on Warren because they can be a 20% plus target share. I just don't see Ingram as 18 plus.
Yeah, that okay. I think a lot of that is reasonably plausible. I think you just happen to be a little lower on the Broncos offense than I am, and that's fine to disagree on. I don't love J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey in the run game, but seeing the arm that Bo Nix has and seeing how much he loved targeting the tight end when he was an Oregon Duck, I think this is the guy he's been waiting to have on
Oh,
the NFL level. Where who the
oops.
heck did Bo Nix have to throw at the tight end position last year? Adam Troutman?
No, my bad on the auto pick there, by the way. I went too long on that take, and that was not supposed
Woo!
to be pick. So this draft is awful already. That's such a bad pick.
So you got Tyler Warren, Travis Kelsey, and then Tucker Kraft. All these T tight ends. Honestly, though, with two flex spots, I don't really hate it. I mean, tight ends are difficult to come by as it is in average fantasy points per game because I looked this up over the last 10 years. Usually it's 10 tight ends that average 10 fantasy points per game or more. So if you end up with three tight ends in an 8-team league like this, Kendall, is that necessarily a bad thing?
Well, I mean, look, he was in my queue. He was in the wrong order. So like, yeah, if you gotta own him, Tucker Kraft, I at least think like if I have to make a case for it, and I don't want to, but if I have to, right, he's the tight end out of everyone left that I want to own for sure. Because it's not that his ADOT's crazy, but his yards after catch are really good. We know that Reed can't stay healthy. Golden should be a larger ADOT, but not necessarily a tremendous PPR guy that's getting peppered with 10 plus targets a game. I do think there could be a midseason trade there. It's just they're wide. They have a lot of wide receivers, but half of them are healthy on a given time. There is a very real world where Kraft plays the TJ Hawkinson role really well, but has better yards after carry. And I think the NFC North also it projects to be a division where you have to put up a lot of points. Detroit's probably going to be a top 5-10 offense, right? The Bears look to be significantly more improved. The Vikings have all the weapons in the world, and if Kevin O'Connell at the helm, they tend to be a pass-heavy team, and I think they're going to need to be. So, in their in-division games where they have to do that sort of a thing, I do think that Kraft could benefit quite a bit. I was actually in a discussion the other day where I was talking about snap share amongst the wide receivers in Green Bay, and one of the biggest take is the guy that's going to have the biggest snap share out of the entire pass catching group is Tucker Kraft. Because everyone else is going to get rotated around, and he is always going to be on the field. And you can't score points if you're not in the field. So a lot of reasons to like.
It's funny to hear you say that too, because Tucker Kraft pretty much was the top target getter last season on the Green Bay Packers, and they did not have a Matthew Golden. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that's going to change with the addition of Matthew Golden, because I think he's straight up replacing Christian Watson in that offense, where Tucker Kraft, to be honest, like a lot of people treat
Do
him
we have
as
IR
if
spots, by the way? Is this
yeah, we you can assume we have IR spots in this draft.
sweet?
So Tucker Kraft only got 70 total targets last season, which is kind of crazy, being that he was pretty much the most consistent safety blanket and reasonable red zone option for Jordan Love, and I don't see that changing this year for the Packers.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I just think the Packers' offense in general is going to be a lot better than people think it is. Their quarterback was injured a lot last year, and it affected a lot. I think like Jacobs had such a good year last year because they had to. I mean, if that offense just throws 100 more passes, just all the pass catchers are going to be good for sure. Yeah, I am in.
Jamie Perogue also has another question for us. Should I draft Kayshawn Booty and Elijah Moore and then name my team Dicker Booty Moore? I say yes, Jamie. I'm not elaborating on this for the audiences at home, just in case any kids are listening. So I have to say yes. What do you think, Kendall?
I'm in. I think I'm a big fan of naming your team. I'm a big fan of have some fun with it. It's memorable if nothing else. So yeah, get in there. It's not my personal brand of humor. I'll throw it out there, but get it in there.
Oh, I've had some. I've been in a lot of leagues where I've seen some really crazy team names, and some of it's kind of not safe for work, not safe for younger audiences type of thing. So unfortunately, I can't really talk about it that much more. But we are now in the final two rounds of this draft for those of you listening at home, and also in the chat. Thank you all so much for the questions so far. you have about 10 more minutes to get in more questions before we have to start wrapping up the show. So, those of you listening, if you got more fantasy football questions, please drop them in the chat. Kendall and I will get to as many as we can before the show has to end. So, it is now in the last couple of rounds here where I'm going to start to look at kickers and defenses. I'm not yet one of these people that wants to forego drafting a kicker or drafting a defense just to get a little more talent and then deciding on it later. I still like to fill it out with some solid matchups for what's projected to be from week 1. And we have 5 kickers off the board so far. Defenses are now starting to go off the board as well. So, Kendall, I see that you went kicker in the 16th round as well. We'll see what you do in the 17th round.
Well, let me ask you, how many IR spots?
2 IR slots.
Okay. Because if you said 3, I wouldn't. If you said 3, I'm already gonna have to add. So actually, no, I'm still. As soon as I'm gonna take a positional player here, because as soon as this league were to start, right? The idea is I'm throwing Ayuk and I'm throwing Mixon on IR, so I'm gonna be able to pick up my defense with that pick. I actually didn't even need to draft Jake Bates, but he's a personal. I really like him, so I'm gonna go ahead and take another player that I just like quite a bit here. I think he could be the starter. I am with you. I specifically ended up taking Mixon not because I like him, but because I think he'll be the starting running back by week 8, and I think I can keep on IR as long as I want to. This year, the same reason I took Ayuk is I think by the time bye weeks roll around, I think he's going to be ready to go by week 6 or 7. I'll have to throw him on the roster, and we'll kind of figure it out from there. Just pretend Tucker Kraft was a wide receiver that I like. He's probably going to be Mims or something along those lines, but I do agree with you though. Generally, if it's a 12-team league, I'm just going to draft the kicker and defense if I have to, right? Or in an 8 or a 10 team, I'm going to draft the defense and the kicker. In a 12 team, where I think there could be a big difference, where I want to draft 2 or 3 running backs to end my draft, something that could really shake up, I'll do that just in case there's an injury, something comes up. Specific, I might draft a kicker if it's between those two. I'm just going to stream defense. I think one of the bigger mistakes you can make is I'm going to draft an elite defense, but if that elite defense has a bad week 1 and 2 matchup, I think that can be given up points. That could potentially turn a win into a loss. You don't really know how elite a defense is going to be for the most part, but I think all defenses are good, and I think good defense crushes bad quarterback play. So I'll take the league's worst defense if they're playing against the league's worst quarterback all day, every day, and that's what I'm chasing.
You might quite possibly be the first person I've heard to say that Dylan Sampson could potentially be the starting running back in this messy Cleveland Browns backfield, being that Quinshon Judkins, I have not heard him sign his second round contract offer yet. The Browns have not finalized that with him at this time. But once he does, he's definitely taking over that backfield, being a second round draft pick. But Dylan Sampson looked really good in the preseason as well, and Jerome Ford is terrible from under center. He's only good from gun formation, so I don't think I really want to touch anybody outside of Quinshon Judkins in this backfield unless I absolutely have to, where you just grabbed Dylan Sampson in the 17th round, the very last round here. So kudos to you for getting some late round value that you should have some standalone value.
I think so. To your point, I think he's the better all-around back compared to Ford for sure. Ford is going to start. He's the veteran. He understands the offense. He's the incumbent, not just the veteran. So he also understands the coaching staff. He understands the organization. Sampson has to learn to become an NFL player. But I scouted Dylan Sampson heavily out of college. I loved his profile. I think he's a better pass catcher than people give him credit for. I think he's lightning in a bottle. He's shifty. He was my version of Bucky Irving this year, except he's faster than Bucky Irving. I think he's got speed, he's got shift. This is an offense that's going to struggle to put up points, and I think he's like their mini Kenneth Walker, where this guy can hit a home run. He's going to be good in a lot of different aspects of the game. And I think Quinshon's the better player, unquestionably, right? But there's risk there. The Quinshon situation the case was dropped due to lack of evidence. Not because no one thinks he did it, right?
What? Yeah.
OJ was innocent too. So, you know what I mean? And here's the thing. What do you know about off-the-field issues in the NFL? It's the same thing as soft tissue injuries. If it happens once, the likelihood it could or will happen again is up there. and it's not what you want to hear. That early on as a rookie, that is a horrible sign about the company you keep and things that could happen. And as a rookie, going through a lot of things, unsigned contract still, the chances that gets to his head, gets to his training, get to his overall availability. The NFL is a league of great parity. One of those players has been playing with the team and looking good in practice and on the field, and it's not Quinshon. And so for those reasons, I think there's a lot of smoke behind, Samson could be the 1A until Quinshon earns his place as an NFL player. Is he talented? Absolutely. Does he have to work on the rest of it? Yeah, he does. You know what I mean? There's a reason that everyone drafts in a particular order. It's rarely how they finish, right? So we'll see. I thought Samson was a steal in the draft too. I thought other teams absolutely should have gone for him that needed it. But it was such a deep class that all the running backs got depressed. Bashal Tutin went super late in a softer running back class. He could be a late second, early third rounder. So yeah, it's just all these running backs went later than their talent profiles, and he could be he's a much better back than Jerome Ford.
I wanted to ask you about Bashal Tutin as well, being that Bashal Tutin to me is a really fast running back who has a similar skill set to DeAndre Swift, but he just doesn't have the exact same talent level that DeAndre Swift has at this time, where he was a fourth round running back for a reason. He's going to be working behind Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, and will need some time to get used to the NFL level. He had a lot of ball security issues in his 2 seasons at Virginia Tech. That can be fixed. I don't know if the Jaguars have the running back staff to do it, but until I see Bashal Tutin prove himself, I am totally out on him. But you got him in the 14th round of this 18 draft, and as a second to last running back after J.K. Dobbins, I'd say that's a pretty good flyer to take compared to old busted Nick Chubb like I did, and then Ollie Gordon, who we don't even know if how much work he's going to get, being that the Dolphins have shown that they love putting out a injured Devon Achane, and then Tank Bigsby went later as well. So I don't know if he's going to be great value by himself this season. So are you just holding him, hoping he busts open after week 10?
He's the type of pick where so many of my bench I am going to be flipping for waiver. I'm full goggles on upside. That's it. I only need home run picks because just kind of good is never going to make my starting lineup in this format. It's just never happening. So I need someone who has the possibility of just going on the field and being that much better than everybody else. And then an injury happens and oops, he's the guy. I think the team drafted him with the intent of it's not going to be a 3-person field forever. It's going to go down to 2. He profiles to be a really good pairing with Tank in the future and probably trading ETN. And the Dallas Cowboys need a running back. We already saw a trade happen. So, if ETN gets moved mid-season or earlier than we think, I'm just saying it doesn't make sense for the team to love all 3 of the running backs. What team in NFL history outside of the Giants the 1 year really love 3 running backs? It just doesn't happen. You're going to take a pick for it if and when you can. So if that happens earlier, I think he has the chance to be lightning in a bottle on a team that doesn't have as many mouths as other teams, and he's good all around. Do I rank him higher than... Honestly, Ollie Gordon is probably a better pick specifically because he could see the field earlier in the season and soft tissue injuries. They tend to pop back up. So if I had to redo it, I would have Ollie Gordon ahead of Bashal Tutin specifically for how soon he could make my lineup and be impactful. There's a range of guys I like to take late out of pure upside, and it's going to be your Braylon Allen, Bashal Tutin, Jaden Blue, and Ollie Gordon. So I want a mix of them and Dylan Sampson in a lot of my drafts, and that's just kind of how it fell this time. But I like all of
them. So I'm glad you also mentioned that there's really no NFL team that loves all 3 of their running backs, but the closest one I can think of would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, being that Todd Bowles loves backing his guys. But do we really think he loves Rachaad White, being that Bucky Irving ended up outplaying him, and they also love Sean Tucker, but he barely sees the field, being that there's only so many mouths to feed in that backfield, considering game script. But I don't know. Is Todd Bowles really for real about loving all 3 of his running backs?
You can love all 3 of your running backs and still have one with a dominant snap share. right? I mean, again, they don't play fantasy, right? So you can love a situational role player, right? You can absolutely love that. You want efficiency. You don't want wasted snaps, right? So I do think he likes those guys for what they bring when they bring it. I just don't think they're going to bring in enough in the offensive ecosystem because they also really, really like Bucky. And Bucky is just that good for the team. He's going to have to get spelled, right? They expect and project to be a playoff team. So it doesn't make sense for Bucky to run out the clock at all. They're going to need someone to just pick up the short yardage stuff, right? It just doesn't make sense for Bucky to risk injury diving into a pile with how small he is. That doesn't make any sense at all. So you kind of need a bruiser. You need a third and short to kind of make that happen. And I think he's going to like those players for that reason. Those are just touches that are not valuable for fantasy at all. One of the reasons I'm super in on RJ Harvey is I think he'll be a sub 50% snap player that will be awesome, right? Gibbs was a top 10 RB at a sub 50% snap share. And that's what I'm looking for at the running back position specifically is valuable touches. So I don't see those backs really getting in. Like I like Rachaad White, but I think that, and I still think like Rachaad White with the injury, his ADP is depressed to the point where I'm actually really in on Rachaad White because I think he profiles to be the guy that if they're up by 2 touchdowns, he's going to get a lot of work and some random goal line stuff because safer. So he becomes a really nice late round pick. But Nashawn Tucker's off my board.
Yeah, there's no reason to draft Sean Tucker at this time, even with the Rachaad White injury, especially in a shallower 8-team league like this, where, yeah, you've got 7 bench spots, but even with that, that's not enough to justification to go grab Sean Tucker unless somebody really has to miss time. Before we start to wrap things up, I want to bring up Danny Moran's comment here. Just as an FYI to those of you who are in draft season, Danny drafted Jordan Addison in one league thinking he could put him in an IR slot, but suspended players don't qualify for IR slots. So the reason I brought this up, ladies and gentlemen, check your league rules before you go drafting people. Make sure that you know what you're doing when you select people, and make sure that if your commissioner, for whatever reason, allows suspended players in your IR slots, go right ahead and draft Jordan Addison high enough, being that he would be back after 3 games, I believe.
Hmm?
Um, but otherwise, yeah, you don't have to reach on Jordan Addison. If he falls your way, great. You can stick him on your bench for 3 games and then start him whenever you feel appropriate.
Yeah, I
So,
think most leagues it's not standard. It's not, so if somebody opens up IR spots and doesn't custom it, it's an auto set to no, it will not. Um, and I think the vast majority of leagues that even do customize it a little bit. Like in my leagues, I like doubtful players. I allow them on IR just because doubtful players are always out. They just always are, and it feels like it's the NFL playing games, but in fantasy we get to make up our own rules, and we can just say, D is really O. Um, but suspensions are a little bit different. You know about it ahead of time. It's predictable, and so I don't allow suspended players on my IR. Most leagues don't.
yeah.
So yeah,
So, Kendall, as we start to wrap things up, I'll ask you one more question here. Out of all 8 of our teams this evening, including your own, whose draft did you like best overall?
definitely not mine for sure. I was spending way too much time trying to chat with you and answer questions. I would have done it a little bit differently. Honestly, if I could even like redo it, I would have taken Bowers and 2 over Neighbors to be elite there, and then I would have gone one additional wide receiver. Probably in place of Pollard, I probably would have gone with JMO for more upside, and then flipped my craft pick with another running back, and then I would be much, much higher on my team for my build order quality because I could have fit into elite onesies and still had it. It would have been my favorite draft if I had done that. With that in mind, Vince probably has my favorite team, and I actually like your team quite a bit. It's pretty close. In 8-team, I'm looking for who has the most elite onesies, but doesn't have a meaningful enough downgrade at the positional players. So usually it's everyone's going to have good players. So it's which ones of in my personal rankings are a little bit higher. I'm a little bit higher on Garrett Wilson, JMO. I'm not as down on Olave. I think Devontae Smith, he's got down. He just has a lot of like my guys this year. So if you can go McBride, Jaden, and then still be fine elsewhere, I'm super into that. You had Mahomes, and I think he's going to be a little bit better, but Bauer specifically is fantastic. So the 103 and the 105, I think, are my favorites overall. I don't love the 103. I didn't give it to him because I'm not as big of a Nico fan. I think Ladd is getting way overdrafted. And so just because of that, I have to mince words a little bit. So that's what I would do.
I appreciate that, and yeah, Jamie I think also had a decent draft. I kind of agree with you on the Led McConkey pick, but we're running out of time here, so we'll save that for another conversation for another time. Before we get out of here, let's talk about a few terrific sponsors that have been doing great things in the fantasy football space and beyond. Starting with the Optimus Fantasy Discord server. If you are not in our Discord community yet, what are you even doing with your life? I'm serious. This is where the real action happens 24/7, and it's completely free to join. We've built an incredible community where you can get everything you need to dominate your leagues all year long. We're talking best ball advice, DFS lineups, live NFL draft coverage with real-time updates, deep dynasties discussions where we debate rookie values and trade strategies, and some of the sharpest NFL betting insights you'll find anywhere. But here's the thing. It's not just about the content. It's about the community. You've got thousands of fantasy fanatics in there sharing advice, breaking news, celebrating wins, and yes, commiserating over those brutal bad beats. Whether it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., someone's always in there ready to talk ball. Check out the link in the show description now. It takes 30 seconds to join, it's completely free, and I guarantee it'll level up your fantasy game. Come hang with us. Also, Fast Draft Fantasy. Alright, fantasy fam, let's talk about Fast Draft. They're absolutely revolutionizing the best ball game right now. They just dropped something called the Rabbit, and this is a game changer. We're talking about a true 15-round best ball draft that includes quarterbacks, no kickers, no defenses, just the positions that matter. And here's the kicker, pun mildly intended. You've got a 20-second clock per pick, which means you can knock out an entire draft in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes! Plus, they've got a $50,000 prize pool up for grabs. And because you're a part of the Optimus family, Fast Draft is hooking you up with a $50 deposit match when you use promo code OPTIMUS. That's OPTIMUS. So head over to fastdraft.app, get that deposit match, and start crushing some rabbit drafts. Trust me, once you try that 20-second clock, you'll be addicted. Kendall, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It was so great finally having you on, especially just because I know I've been on your show a few times. So glad we could finally get you on mine.
Yeah, I'm just so glad to be here. I love your community. Everyone's just got good vibes in your Discord. So I'll shout you guys out too. I recommend everyone in my Discord. All of you should be in the Optimus Discord as well. Great folks, great drafting community, great mock community. And who doesn't want to hang out with Evan, Lou, and the boys? You know what I mean? So got to do it. And come on, we're fellow Chicagoans. You Chicagoans. Got to do what we got to do, you know?
That's right. That's right. You gotta hang out with us. We're reasonable. We're not bad fans, bad homers or whatever. We're pretty honest about our teams. So, ladies and gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, this has been another episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest Kendall Vanderbilt for joining us this evening. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter at KendallTFFT. For more of Kendall's work, please be sure to visit GetRightFF.com for articles, rankings, and more. Also, subscribe to the Get Right Fantasy Network and the Fantasy Football Tavern on YouTube. Also, as Vince Mapstone pointed out, join the Get Right Fantasy Network Discord server while you're at it. Kendall, tell the people what else you have coming up over the next few weeks or months that people should be checking out.
Sure. So anyone who's a fan of my personal channel, I shelved that a little bit to do a lot of fun stuff with Get Right. Running the mock draft tournament streaming every single night for like 3 weeks was crazy. Super fun though. What you can expect on my channel coming up and a few of our others as well is I'm going to be dropping videos literally as soon as tomorrow I'm recording. I'm going to do a video almost every day for about 2 weeks. We are going to do my redraft values, busts, sleepers, the best and worst pick according to me and our team for most formats. Just kind of all those draft ranking kit type of stuff, all for free. You're going to see those videos coming out, about 30-minute videos coming out pretty shortly. So I'd say look forward to that. And if you have particular questions on the clock in a slow draft, I usually write a good paragraph in the Discord. It's not a 2-second answer. It's I'm gonna tell the kids you gotta wait a second. We got fantasy talk over here. So if you have questions in the Discord, you are gonna get way more than you bargained for free over at our Discord as well. I'll probably hop over in the Optimus Discord and do that too. So that's what we got.
Absolutely. Glad to hear it too. And also, thank you to everybody who joined the mock draft this evening because it is darn near impossible to do a mock draft show without folks like you mocking with us. I am sad to say that tonight's episode was the 2025 season finale. With week one of the NFL season upon us next week, Optimus Fantasy will be transitioning this Monday night show with this exact same time slot into a waiver wire show starring me and our fearless leader, Nate Paulvote. Stay tuned for more details on that. Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan will return in the 2026 offseason. The exact date has yet to be determined. Please be sure to follow us on Blue Sky at optimusfantasy.com. That's the handle. This has been Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan here on Optimus Fantasy. Have a great night. I'll see you all soon on the Waiver Wire Show. Take care.